What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Off the Mic Sports Network. Doing something really special for you. The date July 8th. A day for me that really holds not real. I wouldn't say a special place in my heart, but one of the darker days for me as a sports fan in my entire existence. July 8th. Let me take you guys back. July 8th, 2010. Boys and Girls Club. I think it was in Connecticut. I can't even remember where the heck it was. LeBron James makes his decision to Jim Gray and utters those fateful words, I'm taking my talents to South Beach and joining the Miami Heat. A day that a lot of people in Cleveland knew was coming. But I would be listen, I'm 35 years old now. I was 20 when this happened. I was in college. I had worshiped LeBron really for the 7 years that he was in Cleveland to start it because it was literally some of the best basketball that I had ever seen in my life. Granted, obviously I'd seen the Lakers growing up here in LA, but LeBron was just, it was different. And obviously a lot of my identity from my upbringing through a lot of my sports and, my family being from there, Cleveland was a big part of my identity. So seeing LeBron, being a kid from Akron, being the best player in basketball, being on my favorite basketball team was awesome. And then 2010 happened. Well, obviously, you had the 2009 season where they flamed out against the Orlando Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals. They lose to the Boston Celtics in the Eastern semis, and LeBron famously had that horrendous Game 5. And then Game 6, he famously took off the jersey in the tunnel at the TD Garden and walked down, and we were wondering, hey, is he going to leave? And then, it was a long summer. You were like, oh, maybe there's a chance that he might go. And I had gotten the inkling that there was a chance he might leave, but I didn't want it to be a reality. So then that night happens. ESPN does a whole special. It was some of the worst television ever because they literally spent listen, I enjoy the Heisman Trophy, but I'm like, does it really need to be a 1 hour broadcast? This was kind of that, but it was really just based around one simple decision and one interview with Jim Gray and LeBron James. And I'd be lying to you guys if I told you that this was one of the low points of my sports existence. Like, I was just a kid when the Browns moved out of Cleveland and moved to Baltimore. And I didn't really have a full understanding of really just how bad and how devastating that was. And the Browns literally came back as an expansion team in 1999, literally 4 years later. So it was short-lived. And I understand you could say the same thing about LeBron. He was back in Cleveland in 4 years. But this felt like a gut punch because one of Cleveland's own left his hometown team, who was previous 2 seasons a prohibitive favorite to potentially win a championship, to join up with his friends in the flashy nightclub, Miami hotbed destination to go chase rings. And the myth and I think here's the fun thing. We all thought, and I remember talking to my friends about this in the early stages, LeBron had a very good public perception for, I think, the first 6-7 years of his career, was largely looked very positively on. I think it's kind of the same way that we look at Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant has kind of been chasing the same thing too, because he couldn't conquer certain things in his career and he had to go join super teams. But this, not only was this moment just devastating for me personally, I think it changed the way we watch basketball. I think it changed the way player mobility and movement around the league, which to some degree, I don't really care anymore. But this was personal to me, seeing, especially with all the devastation that Cleveland had. And imagine if that 2016 season didn't happen, what we'd be looking at. But he did get the redemption. He did come back. He did get the championship for Cleveland. But this was one of the low points, really, in Cleveland sports history. It was one of the low points for me as a sports fan because losing the best player, like maybe one of the great players to ever play this game, like that, in a nationally publicized, very just, very me-centric, very propaganda-esque type thing. And then seeing that just the way the Cavs struggled for the next 4 seasons, but then they're able to right the ship and get it back. And then obviously, the second time that he left for LA, like we all knew he was leaving. The second he won the championship, you knew he was going to go. And with his family, having a residency out here in California, it was almost a foregone conclusion, and I was fine with that. But 7 years in, um, literally in his mid-20s, prime of his career, prime of his life, just after being devastated in the playoffs the last 2 seasons, just gets up and leaves. It was a gut punch. And it's funny to me now seeing that this is the 15-year anniversary of that fateful night. LeBron's getting ready to play another fucking season. And yet, here we are, and we've got more LeBron and Cavs discourse. Because I swear to God, every single day on Cleveland radio, it's not about, hey, the Cavs have a chance to potentially contend with the Eastern Conference wide open. Indiana just revealed what we already knew. Tyrese Halliburton is not playing at all in the 25-26 season. Jason Tatum, we have no idea when he's coming back. Damian Lillard has been cut or waived and stretched. We don't know when he's coming back. We don't know who he's going to play for. So the Eastern Conference is a fucking crapshoot. And people are still trying to use and hang on to the past of like, hey, let's bring LeBron back a third time. Guys, I've been through this enough where if he came back, cool. But I'm not doing it in a trade. Some of it is I'm still ripping some of the pieces off of the ground of my heart being broken in 2010. Because even still, I'd be lying to you guys if I was fully over what happened. That a lot of what changed that is what happened with that 2016 team and the great years that he was able to do when he came back. But the manner that he left, how it was done, and everything, he clearly learned something with the way the next 2 departures that he had, the one that he had from Miami, and then the one that he had from Miami going back to Cleveland, and then from Cleveland going to LA. It's just wild, man. Like it's 15 years. 15 years. And I know a lot of LeBron fans will have their own, stories about this, but feel free to get at me in the comments or get at me on social media where you guys were, how you remember that. If you're a Cavs fan, how did you feel? How do you feel now about LeBron? 15 years, man. It's crazy that we're still talking about that and looking at it, and LeBron's still an active player in the NBA and still I would say considered one of the 5, 10, 15 best basketball players on the planet at 40. Guys, he was 25 years old when that decision was made. 25 years old. It's crazy. But yes, he was a kid. He didn't handle it very well. It was disappointing. But man, I was thinking about that and I saw that clip and I was like, man, do I really have to relive this moment of my existence ever again? It's like all these devastating moments. Because like if you're putting together a montage of all the devastation that's ever happened in the history of Cleveland sports, I think you would obviously start with Cleveland Browns devastation, whether it be the drive, the fumble, whatever. Then I think right up there with those things, because Cleveland Browns football is there. I think 97 World Series Game 7. I think it was I think Edgar Renteria was the one who got the hit and Craig Counsell scored. I remember crying my eyes out that night, nearly 30 years ago, as a little kid in 1997. So that's there, but obviously, right near the top of that list is LeBron uttering those words that will haunt Cleveland sports fans for a long time. Because what could have been if he would have stuck around there? How would everything have looked differently? Yes, I think winning the championship in 2016 undoes a lot of that pain, but that's never going to go away. It's still, to me, that is going to stick with LeBron James for the rest of his life. That decision. And I think he will even go on record saying that parts of the way that he handled that, and he might have said that, I can't even remember, admitting that he screwed up. He definitely screwed up. Like, I've been on record in saying this before. I do not blame him for leaving to go to Miami. The Cavs had done everything humanly possible, and they weren't going to win. And they were in a situation where, hey, like, I don't blame a lot of respect for him. It's the manner in which he left, glorifying it on television. Also, some degree, it being Miami, it being Dwayne Wade, it being Chris Bosh. And I think Chris Bosh could have ultimately ended up in Cleveland in a certain scenario. Yeah, listen, I wanted to go historical and go a little bit nostalgic because obviously it's a dead time of year, kind of trying to break off the wrestling content. And this is a very personal story for me. But yeah, get at me in the comments. If you're a Cleveland fan, please hit me up in the comments, hit me up on social media. Where were you the night of July 8th, 2010? How did you feel? If you were a Heat fan, how'd you feel? It's one of those moments that's going to really transcend the test of time because it's going to define part of LeBron's legacy. It defined sports history. I think it changed the NBA because I don't think Kevin Durant is jumping from place to place chasing titles if it wasn't for LeBron doing it first. Whether that's good or bad, whether or however you feel about it, there's a lot to this. But from a personal side, from me, this was one of the low points for me as a sports fan because you just see a guy who you looked up to as a hero. Like I said, he came into the NBA in 2003. I was just a teenager watching his career. And then when I was just hitting the age of 20, and it was the summer right before I turned 21 years old. And maybe I wish I would. I mean, maybe I wish I had turned 21 because maybe I might have downed a whole bunch of drinks to drown my sorrows after that. I mean, some people probably could legally do that, but I was a goody two shoes back in the day where I just wanted to abide by the law. So, yeah, it's, sitting here and reflecting on it. It's just like, man. Also, another thing I'll throw at you guys, lowest sports moment of your existence. Please hit me that in the chat. Go hit me up on Twitter. Like I said, thanks for listening. I guess this is a therapy session for me, but, see if the Cavs can go win a championship, but I don't think they need to go trade for LeBron James because I'll say this. Not only would you have to give up Darius Garland and probably you'd have to definitely give up Darius Garland, probably Jared Allen. Not only that, you would have to potentially part ways with at least another player, maybe more than that, because you have to get below the second apron line. Guys, we need to stop rehashing this whole thing with LeBron. The only way, and I'm even lukewarm to this idea, that I would even be remotely tolerant of LeBron James coming back to Cleveland for a third time is if it was on the veterans minimum. I'm not gutting this team for this guy anymore. He's left twice. He got us a championship. The Cavs have a good enough team to win it without him. They didn't do it this year. Stop hanging on to the past. So I guess, we're going from the past to the present, and we're looking obviously into the future here with this whole situation. But yeah, I guess happy 15-year anniversary to the decision. I don't know if it's a happy anniversary for me or a lot of Cleveland sports fans out there. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.